Testing is one of my favorite things. I test when there's a project on the horizon. I test when there's no project on the horizon. I test when there's a free weekend. Sometimes I'll get some friends together and make it a good time. I encourage everyone to test as much as possible. Allow yourself the space to try some things out. Don't blindly follow someone else's words. I think this relates a lot to cinematography and filmmaking because there's a lot of preconceived notions and opinions about technology and technique, like Alexa is better than Sony, which is better than your iPhone, but is it true for your eyes? You can only know if you test it yourself. I try to only form an opinion about something until I've tested it and seen it myself, because that's the only way I know. And with that, I've become absolutely obsessed with testing. I'm always keeping a list of things that I want to test, just out of curiosity. So I got some friends together, pulled some film stock laying in my fridge, and we got testing. I got a new camera recently, so naturally I wanted to test it out, iron out the functions of the camera, just kind of get to know it. Even with my SR, it's going to be slightly different from other models. In particular, I wanted to test out the sweet spot of my Ingenue 12-120. I wanted to test color conversion filters, the usage of an 85 filter versus no 85 filter. And if you know what I mean, it's a color filter that converts tungsten stock to daylight. If you take tungsten stock outside, it's going to be super blue. So an 85 filter is like kind of an orange piece of glass that you put over the lens to convert it to daylight. Now that can have some funky effects. For me personally, I usually just convert tungsten to daylight in the color grade, but I wanted to study once again firsthand what it looks like actually having the filter in versus not having the filter in. And what I found is when you don't use the 85 filter and you just convert in the grade, you retain this really lovely cooler color in your shadows that I think is really associated with classic cinema. But when you use the 85 filter, you get warmer shadows. But the 85 also cuts some light, so you're gonna have to compensate about 2 stops of exposure, so just know that. So it all depends on what you're going for. Like if you're trying to go for something that's really warm and dusty looking, an 85 filter might be the choice for you. Or if you're trying to do something that's a little bit, gritty or cooler, or like a thriller horror movie, then maybe you want cooler shadows. And in that sense, just leaving the tungsten stock as is and converting in the grade might be a better option for you. But again, that's why we test. You gotta figure out what works for your eyes. Now I've been shooting film for about 7 years now, and even then, there's constantly lessons to be had. These days I feel pretty comfortable navigating all the different film stocks and various exposure schemes, but I only have this knowledge because I was really aggressive about testing when I first got started. This is why I encourage anyone new to shooting film to do the same. I dare you to just take a camera out and try some crazy stuff out, like underexpose the stock and pull it in the lab, or take some expired film and push it by 3 stops. Take a 100 daylight spool and spool it backwards and shoot through the reverse side of the emulsion and see what happens. Like, these are all things that I did in my earlier years that really helped me find my sweet spot. But my sweet spot is gonna be different from someone else's sweet spot. Through testing, I really discovered just how resilient film stock is. The stuff is pretty robust and you can expose it in some pretty extreme ways, like bash light onto it and see what happens, or really suppress the light and you'll be surprised at your results. It can take a lot. I know I've been speaking kind of technically about this, so I just want to emphasize that creative testing should also be done. In fact, creative testing is the most important type of testing. I really try and keep my tests creative and try and put the cameras in situations where you'd actually be filming a movie. Like, I'm not really testing film stock in a rental house that much, I'm really trying to put it under lighting schemes or put it in environments that I'm gonna be shooting for a particular project. That's the main reason why I test, is because I'm on the hunt to find the film's visual recipe. And this is important with digital as well, like you should still do that, but with film it's even more important. Imagine that you've just been brought onto a project that requires a really bold look, like a really specific lighting scheme or a really experimental way of exposing. It would not be wise to simply show up onto set and see how it goes. You're gonna wanna test that stuff out. It's worth the time, it's worth the money. So imagine the camera and lens combination that you wanna do. Talk to your production designer, costume designer about getting some fabrics or some props that they've already prepared. Get your gaffer there and get on the same page. This is your chance to push your boundaries and find a look that's specific to the project. I like to approach every project with a completely open mind. This means I'm disregarding any style that I might have when I'm stepping onto a project, and I'm thinking totally and completely in the direction of the film. This means that the testing period is my opportunity to really find what truly works best for the film and what serves the story. If you don't know where to get started testing or you don't have a space, just contact some local rental houses and they'll usually be pretty cool about you coming in. If you're in Los Angeles, Old Fast Glass is really great. They have a whole testing loft upstairs where you just email them, schedule time, ask them what equipment is available, and they'll bring it up for you, and you can test there for like a couple hours, and I bring a hard drive, keep the footage afterwards. It's great. Reaching out to rental houses is also a great way to just get your hands on gear that you haven't used before. Like that's how I taught myself how to shoot 35mm. I just emailed a rental house and asked them to take out an Arri cam, brought some of my own film stock, and the tech there helped show me how to load it, and I shot like a few feet and it was great. Want to give a quick shout out to my friends at MacGuffin Makers who let us film at their warehouse. They're a prop fabrication company in Los Angeles. They're the ones who built this interesting sci-fi pedestal thing that we used. So if you're ever looking for props that not only look good on camera but are functional, they're the place to go. So what did I learn from my most recent test? I confirmed my dislike for 85 filters. Discovered the close focus on my ingenue is not the best. Expired film from 2021 holds up pretty well. Always be testing.